On December 1st, back in 1824, the United States Electoral College did not choose Andrew Jackson as the sixth president of the United States. And that might not seem all that remarkable, even to people who are now quite interested in the possibility of the Electoral College not choosing certain people as president, since after all, it was John Quincy Adams who became the sixth president of the United States. But on December 1st, 1824, the Electoral College also did not choose John Quincy Adams as president, nor for that matter did they choose Henry Clay or William Crawford. I'm not going to list a whole bunch of obscure early 19th century politicians at this point who were also not chosen as president. The point of the story is that the Electoral College didn't choose anybody as president. Those four were all on the ballot. They all had Electoral College votes, but when it came time to get together and count them, the result was that nobody had more than half. A situation very different from that which has periodically arisen, where the person who won the popular vote didn't get a majority of Electoral College votes. That is not an offense against man or God when that happens. It's part of the design of the system, that you need broad appeal. If you win some states by huge margins, but lose a bunch by narrow margins, you will not be president, even if you did win the popular vote. But what happened in 1824 was rather more dramatic. The American system had actually been trending toward basically one-party rule, in part because people at the time thought that political parties were appalling. In fact, for all their defects, political parties beat the alternative of a political consensus in which all the politicians are united against the populace. So after this lively competition in the very early days between the Federalists and the Republicans, essentially the Republicans had won. National Republicans had won 6 straight elections. Jefferson had 2 terms, Madison had 2 terms, Monroe had 2 terms. And as they did, they were gradually moving upscale. Initially, they'd been kind of the Democratic rebels against the Federalist Party and its aristocratic concepts. But by 1824, their choice was John Quincy Adams, who was the son of John Adams, who'd been the second president and had been Washington's vice president. However, as the party disintegrated, you got 4 credible candidates, and when it came time to count the votes, Adams had 84 Electoral College votes out of the 131 you needed to win, mostly from New England. Andrew Jackson had more. He had 99. He had votes from all over the country. Henry Clay had 37 from the West, and Crawford had 41, but it was essentially the Tidewater South that backed him. Well, what happens when the Electoral College can't choose a president? They could fight it out. They could go until they were so exhausted they voted for somebody you couldn't remember who, but that's not what the U.S. Constitution says. If the Electoral College can't make a choice, it goes to the House of Representatives. But in the House, each state casts 1 vote for president, and which way that vote goes depends on a vote within the state delegation. And so they got together, and it took them months to make a choice because everybody was dug in pretty hard, as people will be in politics. But finally the decision they made was that Jackson was just too much of a hillbilly maniac. And so, although he had won more electoral votes than Adams, but not more than Adams and Crawford and Clay put together, the House went with Adams. And Jackson's people erupted in fury because he did have the most. He had 99 votes in the Electoral College. He also had more of the popular vote than anybody else, but only 41%. Was this an outrage? Was it the system exercising its judgment? I'm going to go with the latter. Not because John Quincy Adams was a very effective president. Like his father, he was described as being the perfect man to unite the country against himself. That's not always a bad thing in politics. A willingness not to pander to public opinion is sometimes a strength. But here's the revenge of the system. In 1828, Jackson won an overwhelming victory. The National Republicans disintegrated. They were never again a force in American politics because people did feel that what had happened in 1825 was a cheat. So in the end, it went through this elaborate institutional mechanism of the Electoral College and then the House of Representatives under this, as I say, rather arcane provision of the U.S. Constitution. But then it went back to the people. They elected Andrew Jackson in 1828. They elected Andrew Jackson in 1832. They elected his vice president, Martin Van Buren, in 1836. And though the Whigs struggled to get some kind of equality with the Democrats, every time they thought they had got equal, they collapsed through some accident like the death of their recently elected president. And the Democratic Party dominated American politics for about 3 decades, running the country straight into the Civil War, which is not the best thing you could say about a political party. Nevertheless, the fact of the matter is that this very weird outcome in 1824 where nobody got an electoral college majority, and then the House chose somebody who didn't have a plurality, either the popular vote or the electoral college, wound up being sent back to the people for verdict, and their verdict was they wanted the hero of New Orleans, warts and all, and they got him for 2 terms. They put his party in power. This is how democracy is meant to work. Some bumps and bruises, but institutions that prevent things from flying to flinders, and the people get the final say. They had it in 1824, they had it in 1828, they still have it, and it's still a good thing. If you're enjoying these commentaries, please come to my website, that's www.johnrobson.ca, and make a monthly contribution to keep me in business. And of course, keep watching The Rebel, keep subscribing, keep supporting Ezra and the terrific work that he's doing.